Hi everyone, welcome to SPED 760 and your instructor insights for week 2. So week 2 will be all about school-wide and classroom supports along with defining behavior. So at the conclusion of this week, you should be able to apply your learning about the role of school-wide and classroom supports in supporting students that struggle socially, emotionally, and behaviorally to a variety of scenarios, and write about behavior using observable, measurable, and positive terms. So specifically, this week we'll focus on preventative systems found in schools, along with foundational elements of functional behavioral assessments, known as FBAs, and behavior intervention plans, known as BIPs. So we will learn about school-wide and classroom supports, for example, PBIS, RTI, MTSS, all those acronyms. I'm sure many of you know about them, but if you don't, we'll learn about them this week, along with defining behavior. So specifically, what does that look like within the week that we have together? I'll go in to the course in Canvas and do a little bit of a tour and show you where these things are, but an overview to begin with. So you have a discussion board, part 1, that will be due by Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. Wednesday at 12 a.m., which is 1 minute after your first part is due, discussion board part 2 will become available for you. Then you have another small post that's due by Thursday at 11:59 p.m. So you have a couple days to do that. And then you have some peer feedback that you can do anytime after discussion board 2 goes up. However, it's due by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So this discussion board here, in summary, part 1, closes Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. and you'll get a grade for that part. Then part 2 opens immediately after the first one closes, and you have 2 small things to do here. The first one is due by this time, Thursday at 11:59. The second, Sunday at 11:59. I can assure you there's very explicit directions within the course for each of the discussion boards and the parts, and they likely will be much less work than what you did in week 1 for the discussion board. So just sit tight. You'll have plenty of time to do this stuff, trust me. And it'll be a little bit of a different discussion board, I think, than you've done before, than I've tried before. I'm trying within the course this time to do some things that I've traditionally done in face-to-face courses in this format. And sometimes it can be kind of tricky to pull them off, but we'll see how it goes. Then you have an assignment that will be due on Sunday. It's titled Defining and Supporting Behavior Activity. And be sure that you have your student ready to go for the FBA and BIP, because we'll start collecting data and working on that next week, so during week 3. So let's go into the course and see what we've got going on here. So I have it in student view. Here was week 1 and here's week 2. So our overview, it's right here. Talked about a lot of that earlier. Here's where your instructor insights will be. And here's your readings. So there's 3 chapters in the Otten and Tuttle text for you to read. It's all foundational stuff about FBAs and BIPs. We're getting an overview this week, and then we're going to dig deeper over the rest of the weeks. And then you also have a module from the Iris Center. It's out of Vanderbilt University. They have some amazing resources there that I'm going to have you work on. So there's some reading to do within this. It's not a ton. And then you will get to choose some different case studies to write up. So I'll just show you what it looks like when you click on the link. It's a 21-page document, so those of you that like hard copies of things, you probably could print it off with no problem. But anyway, you will go ahead and read the introduction, and then go ahead and read 7 through 15. Then within the assignment, I'll give you directions about which of the case studies to do. So information here, information from 7 through 15, and then you'll pick some of the case studies to do and write up to apply your learning. So the reason I'm having you do this defining behavior activity, because this is a key foundational piece to being able to objectively do an FBA and a BIP for a student. And the discussion board this week is all about being able to be really clear and concise in your writing too. So having said that, let's take a look at the discussion board. So part 1, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with it, but you're going to, in essence, be finding an image to go with a description that I have here, and you're going to be posting it by Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. I have information here about how to embed an image if you need to learn about that. I also talk a lot about screen readers here. It's something that's on my radar a lot, and it should be on yours too, especially given that you work with students with disabilities, with all the information that's being shared through technology, phones, computers, this and that. Making sure that things are accessible for people using screen readers is huge. So I have a little bit of learning for you here about that, and you'll see why it makes sense for this assignment when you get into it. Then it just talks here a little bit about next steps. So what'll happen is after you post this, you're not going to be able to do the next step until Wednesday at 12 a.m. So until Wednesday at 12 a.m., this is what discussion board part 2 is going to look like. I have it set to automatically unlock Wednesday at 12 a.m., and then you'll be able to see it and go with it. And just like part 1, very detailed description about what you need to do and the timelines and all of that, and there's a rubric and things. So if it gets to be Wednesday and you have questions or this or that, send me an email, message me within Canvas. I'll help you figure it out. I think it'll be a fun learning experience. Then here's your assignment that I was telling you a little bit about. You'll be doing some of the case studies from the IRIS defining behavior module. You have your rubric down here at the bottom, things like that. You should be good to go. So if you have any questions or anything, like I said, as always, send me an email. Ask me early in the week. I think things are fairly straightforward though. Okay. So before you begin working this week, I wanted to talk a little bit about the model of intervention that we'll be using throughout this course. So like I mentioned, through this week's reading, you'll be learning the basics of FBAs and BIPs. And this week is really all about seeing the big picture before digging deeper into the different elements of each in the weeks that follow. Once the functions of problem behavior are identified through the FBA, then we need to design a BIP that contains an intervention which encourages students to meet that function in a more socially acceptable way. The model of intervention shown here will in essence be the BIP once the FBA is completed. Often as educators, we want to jump to the undesirable consequences because that is what many of us experienced in school. It's what I know I did. It was what was modeled for us, and as a result, we're pretty comfortable with it. Don't get me wrong, there might be times and places when undesirable consequences make sense. And we'll get to that much later in the course, but the big thing is the research doesn't support starting there. Instead, it supports that effective intervention begins with instruction and prevention, which can only be done when the functions of the behavior have been identified and their complexities understood. Then, once students learn appropriate skills, the performance of these skills should be reinforced. So we have reinforcement here through high levels of reinforcement until they become fluent. Now, only after the first 3 steps have been tried and found not to work should undesirable consequences be considered. Now, as a special educator, you'll consistently run into adults who think differently. So having a firm hold on the rationale about why using this model is better for students will be paramount, so you can back up your assertions with research. So keep this in mind as you're reading today and as you're moving through the rest of the course and as you're working with students moving forward. So that's all I have for you this week. I wanted to show you a little bit of a video here about the kind of weather we're dealing with in Duluth. This was yesterday when I took Liebchen, my miniature schnauzer, out on a hike near our house. Listen carefully, you can really hear the wind coming through there. So anyway, I hope that you stay warmer than that this weekend, and let me know if you have any questions or anything, and I'll see you in the class. Thanks.